I think Narendra Modi, probably we haven't understood fully yet.
Why in 1980 does the RSS prefer Indira Gandhi over Atal Bihari Vajpayee?
The RSS people said Indira Gandhi sabse badi Hindu hai. Sonia Gandhi was there and looking quite distraught, and in walks Rahul. And he says, they killed my daddy, they killed my father. In 6 months, they will kill you if you become Prime Minister.
Neerja Chowdhary, you've spent a lifetime observing and learning from and reporting on politics. If I were to ask you, who is India's least understood Prime Minister or political figure, who would you say it is?
You know, Barkha, I can say more than one Prime Minister.
Start with one.
But I will start with one. And I will start with the current one. Because it is in the present. I think Narendra Modi, probably we haven't understood fully yet. I often feel this myself. And when I travel around the country, that is my endeavor when I talk to people. Of course, he is Hindu Hriday Samrat. Of course, he talks about nationalism, national pride. Of course, he is an OBC, and it's the rise of OBCs we are seeing in an unprecedented way. And he's a OBC Prime Minister. Of course, he's got the Labharthis, the social welfareism that he's put out. So many people, particularly lower down, have got something tangible in their hands. And he's 24/7. He's got no family in tow.
Which is a big advantage for him. You know, in my travels, I would meet people who would say कि मोदी जी तो करप्ट हो ही नहीं सकते क्योंकि उनके तो बच्चे ही नहीं है तो वो पैसे बना के किसको छोड़ेंगे. Very different from the Western culture where you need the suburban family behind the picket fence, the mom, dad, the children and the dog.
That's right. And they compare with the other families. There are other political families, other parties who have sons and grandsons, and the political legacy is being passed on. And of course, also that he's somewhere tapped into an aspirational India. You know, the small town India, the village India, wanting to make it good. And he talks about India 50 years hence, India 20 years hence, 10 years hence. It's not a gloom and doom story that he's dishing out. All that is there. But I feel where we haven't fully understood him is that he is a response to a changing India. And that changing India, we haven't fully comprehended yet. And
because it's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
What is it that we, or you, with all of your experience, can't put your finger on? Like if you were to, when you travel, और एक बार लगता है ना कि अच्छा ये तो पता ही नहीं था, या I didn't understand this, or I'm surprised to see this. What is that thing when it comes to Modi, or how people respond to him?
You know, I would say also that he is putting into motion, and as he prepares for a third stint in power, which many people feel he will get, as things stand today.
And do you feel he'll get it?
Yes, I think that's the way it's headed. As you move around, though one can never say anything definite in Indian politics, but having said that, he is putting into place a civilizational project of the BJP and RSS. But Modi stands for much more than ideology and an ideological commitment. So that, of course, is, where I said we need to stand for. But what I was recently in Banaras, Ayodhya, Lucknow. That's the route I took. And I wanted to know, what are people thinking? What are people saying? And I had gone to Varanasi after 5 years, and I went to the Ganga Aarti at night in the evening, which I had done 5 years ago. Same place. There must have been about 2,000 people last time in 2019. Today, as I sat there, Barkha, there were 70 to 80,000 people on that ghat in the evening. And wherever you looked, in the dark, there were just people and people and people. And I looked around, and they were mostly younger faces. Very few older people. Older people were there, and on top of the terrace and on the steps, and then talking to them. Somebody's come from Bombay, somebody from Calcutta, somebody from Silchar, somebody from Kota, and they've come, younger people who brought their young children. And I sat there and I thought, this is Hindu resurgence. And it need not be malignant. It may be very benign. You know, a consciousness about your Hindu identity. It's another another thing that political parties have used it, as one Muslim commentator said, to give the anti-Muslim tadka on this resurgent dish. But they will make capital of it, or try to make capital. But what is happening? Or those sculptors in Ayodhya who working 6 months, you know, to carve out the murti of Ram Lalla, doing their best, the excellence coming out, you know. They are not thinking of, you know, this doing damage to the Muslims or the minority. They are not thinking in those terms at all. So how Modi is making use of it, putting it, you know, giving it a certain direction. But what about the others? Do they understand fundamentally what's going on in society? Why? Is it only the fault lines of the past? Or is it much more than that?
And yet it's important to say that Hindutva is one factor that defines Modi, not the only factor that defines his popularity. But let's start with Ram Lalla, the Mandir, and go back to your book. One of the things in your book is the Hinduization of Indira Gandhi. Your book, of course, looks at 6 Indian prime ministers, and how they took the decisions they did, why they took the decisions they did. Narendra Modi, Prime Minister Modi, has often been compared with Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. So many people who have seen both ages say, if there is one person Modi is like, it is Indira. Veer Sanghvi said on our program the other day, Modi is the Indira of our time with some advantages, and the advantage, he said, was the lack of a family, which you started with. Do you believe Modi is the Indira of our times?
You know, she is the one they compared him to, have compared him. Yes. Even in 2014 early, somebody in the BJP establishment had said this in a private conversation, that you all compare him to the Deen Dayal Upadhyay, and the mentors are very much from the RSS pantheon and the BJP pantheon of earlier years. But he takes his leaf out of Indira Gandhi's book. 2014, you people forget, talking about the media. Yes, I mean, the comparisons are very obvious. You know, a strong leader, a popular leader, a leader who's gone above the his own party.
Transcends the moment, yeah.
Even now, Modi's guarantee, you know, it is above the government's guarantee, it's above the party's guarantee. So he's above the party and the government.
Yeah.
Indira Gandhi likewise. And very strong PMO. Indira Gandhi ruled through her PMO. If you remember her best years, the so-called golden years, from 67 to 73, when P.N. Haksar was with her. And this Kashmiri mafia. And then she went in for, of course, carved out Bangladesh. She went in for Garibi Hatao, nationalization of banks, removal of privy purses of princes, all those things which gave her a certain profile that was left of center, pro-poor, and she got the better of the old guard in the party. Now, Modi didn't have to face the old guard as Indira Gandhi. She had to navigate her way. He's had it easier in terms of the party accepting him.
Except that he's more self-made than she was. She inherited power.
Yes.
His tenure as chief minister put him in pole position. Now, it's interesting that you mentioned left of center. Of course, Indira Gandhi fell back on the economic policies that were left of center, but on national security, she was completely center right at the very least. The creation of Bangladesh, the 71 war, and so on. But what about on religion? One of the points that you have made is that Indira Gandhi was I think you said Hindu first and Hindu last. She Hinduized her politics to a degree that the RSS admired her, not just for her politics on national security, but also for her Hinduized politics. And the RSS and she develop a relationship such that you argue that the RSS helps her in her political comeback after the emergency.
That's right. She visited every major temple in the country between 77 and 1980. People say there wouldn't have been a temple she left. And that was for two reasons. She feared for Sanjay, that the Janata Party leaders might harm him in some way. And she also used it politically. And right, the RSS people said, Indira Gandhi sabse badi Hindu hai. So they felt they could use her. Of course, they wanted her, they were reaching out to her during the emergency to be released from jail. And she wanted to use them, and she used them also. Of course, at the time of the 1977 elections, she sent them word, Sangh Chunav se alag ho jaye. And they sent her word that it was too late, they were already committed, but after the elections, we will talk again. And in 1980, when she won the highest record, the highest number of seats, she had said in private conversation, never acknowledged publicly, that had it not been for the RSS, she would not have got that number of seats. So somewhere the RSS, behind the scenes, nudged it in the right direction for her, and the Hindus did vote for her, and she wanted to offset the loss of Muslim support that had taken place to the Congress.
So why is it that, I think when you say that Indira Gandhi went to every temple in India, why is it that Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, when they attempt, not that they've gone to every temple in India, but when they attempt to do this, they're called Hindutva light, they're called Me Too versions of Modi, people mock them, Kamal Nath's aggressive Hindutva certainly bombed in Madhya Pradesh. What's the difference?
The difference is that I think Indira Gandhi's was seen as a genuine thing, and I think she was a believer. She believed in it.
I mean, Rahul Gandhi calls himself a Shaivite. That's what people around him say.
Rahul also, I was in Ujjain. This is a few years ago. And outside that temple, talking to a priest who sat there, and I asked him, कि Rahul Gandhi is going to these temples. What do you make of it? He said, अच्छा कर रहे हैं. उनका problem वो नहीं है. उनका problem है भाषा का लफड़ा. So, I mean, it's a complexity of issues that.
But Indira Gandhi was also Western educated, was also sort of perfect. She was a polyglot. She spoke multiple languages. It's not that she was more. I mean, do you think she was a more rooted, less colonized image than Rahul Gandhi's?
Indira Gandhi, I think she was much more grounded. I think she understood India much more. Rahul's problem, and I think Sonia Gandhi's problem, also has been Western oriented in one way, but also rather like what Nehru believed in, that the rights of the minorities should be given more rights than the majority if your secularism is to work. That may have been true after the partition and after independence. But today, the majority community will not accept that. But that, the Congress has to redefine itself.
Right. And it doesn't know how to. But for a moment, let me ask you, why did the RSS want to help Indira?
Because, they were...
And they wanted to help her instead of Atal Bihari Vajpayee.
That was the reason.
And Vajpayee's tenuous relationship with the RSS continued well into his prime ministerial years. He was not able to choose his finance minister. The RSS had veto power over his choices. He had to go to America and describe himself as a Swayamsevak, and it made so much news today it would not even cause a stir if Prime Minister Modi identified as such. Why in 1980 does the RSS prefer Indira Gandhi over Atal Bihari Vajpayee?
Because Indira Gandhi was Hinduizing her persona and her politics, and Atal Bihari Vajpayee was trying to secularize his politics and the party that he launched. And they were not very happy, the RSS, with the Vajpayee. He had written an article in the Indian Express where he had questioned the dual membership. He said that the RSS was open its doors to everybody, including the minorities. So it struck that note. They were not happy with him. And they thought Indira Gandhi might further the Hindu agenda of the RSS much more.
And were they right?
I think both were trying to use each other. It's not that Indira Gandhi believed in the RSS ideology. But she thought she
But she did identify, not just personally, but politically and in the public space as a Hindu.
She did, and she realized what was happening at the ground level, the shifts that were taking place. And this 1983 very important Ekata Mata Yatra, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad took out all over with Ganga Jal. And this became the example or the prototype for Advani to copy later when he had his Rath Yatra in 1990. She was supposed to have funded it, according to those close to her.
She funded the VHP Yatra?
And she gave permission for them to hold their conference in Vigyan Bhavan, where they gave a call for the reclaiming of Ayodhya, Kashi Mathura, and
which is all unfolding
today.
So how interesting. So was it that she believed in keeping your friends close and your enemies closer? Or was it that she understood and responded to the social currents of the time?
I think she understood what was happening at the ground much more. She was much more rooted, had her ear to the ground, had got feedback, which is what dried up during the emergency, and acted according. She was a master at real politics.
Let's talk about this sense of Hindu resurgence that you feel that you picked up in your travels through UP, the Ram Mandir. In your book, you talk about a conversation that takes place between Narasimha Rao, often accused of looking the other way, as the then Babri Masjid is demolished, and Nikhil Chakravarti, senior journalist. They were friends. And this is an interesting time because they ideologically were different, but they were friends. And Rao says to him, and there are other such anecdotes that you have documented, that we can fight the BJP, but we can't fight Lord Ram. That's one thing that you talk about. And the other thing he says is that if this demolition takes place, BJP's Ram politics or Ram-centric politics will end. This did not happen. We are actually witnessing the sort of apogee moment, the climax of those Ram politics. The Ram politics never ended. Talk about what Rao was thinking at the time.
See, even VP Singh before Rao has said this. I could fight the BJP, but I could not fight Ram. And exactly the same thing was said by Narasimha Rao. And Narasimha Rao wanted to take the Hindu plank away from the BJP. And when 3 days after the demolition of the Babri Masjid, 4 journalists went to see him, led by Nikhil Chakravarti, who was also his friend. And he was part teasing him, saying, we heard you were sleeping that day when the masjid was being brought down or doing puja. So Rao was stung to say, Dada, he used to call him Dada, do you think I don't know Rajniti? I was born in politics. I allowed it to happen because I wanted to take this Hindu plank away from the BJP. And he thought it has become a festering sore. And many people have said this, that he himself wanted to build a temple at the spot. And he got a trust registered. He put people onto the job, and every major sect, kept the Vishwa Hindu Parishad out, but every major Hindu sect was part of it. It was registered in 1995, but he lost interest. He thought he would go the Hawala route and other routes. And maybe if we come back to power, he will build it.
But he wanted to build the Ram Mandir. He set up a trust to build the Ram Mandir.
Absolutely. But he, during his term, after 92, the Ram Mandir as an issue, the temple as an issue went on the back burner. It is true. But Hindu nationalism, the Hindus and sections of the community had tasted blood with the demolition of the mosque. This came to the fore in a big way. And we have to again keep understanding this. What makes for this resurgence, this Hindu sentiment? Is it the fault lines of the past? How far back? They talk about 500 years of struggle. How far back do you go in history?
Is it a North Indian phenomena, a Hindi-speaking states phenomena? And I don't want to create this artifice of a North-South divide, but certain things are paradoxically and in parallel streams true. The BJP, with the exception of Karnataka, has struggled to break into some of the southern states. A phrase like Udinidhi Stalin's comment on Sanatan Dharma can work in Tamil Nadu politics but has adverse effects in the rest of India. But Prime Minister Modi's popularity at a personal level, I was looking at at numbers from a C voter survey. They actually show you that Prime Minister is personally quite popular in these southern states. And with the exception of Tamil Nadu, where Rahul Gandhi is polled to be more popular, even in Karnataka and Telangana, where the Congress has won elections recently at the state level, the Prime Minister is more popular than Rahul Gandhi for the post of Prime Minister. So how do we understand this evident dichotomy that there is a Hindu resurgence? Mr. Modi is associated with it. Does it play out the same way across India?
I think, Barkha, the South is a very distinct, and it is a worrying phenomenon if there is a North-South divide.
Is there one?
Tamil Nadu, of course, the Hindi has not worked.
Someone said to me, a friend of mine in Hyderabad, Sriram Kari, said to me, the problem in the South is not Hindutva, it's Hindi. If there were more Hindi speaking, if there were more polyglot, not Hindi speaking, if there were more polyglot leaders of the BJP who did not come across as Hindi Bhasha leaders, the BJP might be
may be different. And also there is a whole history of a Dravidian culture.
But that's Tamil Nadu.
That's Tamil Nadu. The rest of South, I think we still don't know. But you're right in terms of, I don't know of any other Prime Minister who's been as popular as Mr. Modi 10 years down the line. Nehru, yes, 52 to 62. 62, he'd become frail and he still won the election. Indira Gandhi, 67 to 77, she lost the election.
But Indira comes back from emergency, which is extraordinary. She comes back with a historic win from her biggest mistake.
That's correct, afterwards. But 67 to 77, she's routed. 77,
yes, absolutely.
All over North India. And then, of course, she bounces back. And Manmohan Singh also, 2004, of course, the mandate was not for him in that sense.
But in 2009, it was. He ran as prime ministerial candidate.
And 14, look at the state of the Grand Old Party of India. So this is again to continue to be popular as a leader 10 years down the line is a phenomenon, as you say.
I was just thinking when you were talking that Prime Minister Modi has never experienced defeat. He has won since the elections that took place after 2002. He has won all of his elections in Gujarat. And then he has won so far both his terms, poised to take a third term. That has to impact your politics, your sense of belief, your capacity for taking risk. Whether it's demonetization or other decisions that even those around him may say were not the best decisions. But let's talk about the Grand Old Party, the India Alliance. You documented how Sonia Gandhi, unlike what everybody believed was her moment of abdication, was actually quite okay to be Prime Minister. It's Rahul Gandhi who at Natwar Singh's house, then still in favor with the Gandhis, dissuades her.
Not Natwar Singh's house, at Janpat, the Sonia Gandhi's place.
I see. And Natwar Singh was present.
And this was, on that Saturday, the Congress Parliamentary Party elects Sonia Gandhi.
Yes.
On that Sunday, the UPA comes into being and they elect her as their leader.
Yeah.
So she's all set to become Prime Minister. And APJ Abdul Kalam wrote in his memoirs, the letter was ready for her to invite her to become Prime Minister. On that Monday, hours later, there is this meeting in Janpat, And there's Dr. Manmohan Singh, there is Priyanka Gandhi, there is Suman Dubey, a friend of the family. And Narendra Singh walks in looking for Dr. Manmohan Singh because he had easy access, he was allowed in. And Sonia Gandhi was there and looking quite distraught. And in walks Rahul. And he says, they killed my dadi, they killed my father. In 6 months, they will kill you if you become Prime Minister. And if you go ahead and become Prime Minister, I will do something drastic to myself. And she's very distraught. And then Natwar Singh is who I quote, who was there and saw it all. And then she goes in and then goes out to meet other leaders who are waiting for her, and she talks about Manmohan Singh becoming Prime Minister. So, yes, it was the mother in her who overpowered the
So it was the
politician.
mother in her and not her inner voice. It was later presented as the inner voice.
It was the mother in her who overpowered the politician in her. Because there are very few people who've turned down prime ministership.
That's right.
You know?
No, I'm not saying this in a judgmental way. I'm merely making the observation that what we saw overtly play out at that time, which was this grand abdication. It was a political moment. And many called it Sonia's smartest move and so on. She was all poised to become India's Prime Minister. Were it not for her son, she would have become the Prime Minister.
That's right. That's right. And remember one other thing, that had she not done that, 6 months, BJP would have made things so difficult for her. How long she would have lasted, we don't know. And because she did that, the Congress party accepted her, the country accepted her, and she went on to be the head of the Congress party for 20 years.
Her son stopped her from making what you think would have been a huge political mistake.
Absolutely. I think so.
Vajpayee advised her not to take the
That's right.
How did that conversation happen between them?
I'm told that soon after she was elected leader of the Congress Parliamentary Party, they had this conversation on the phone and she asked for his Ashirwad. So he said, you have my Ashirwad in abundance, but I would advise you not to take it because the country will find it difficult to accept and the civil services will also find it very difficult. So they had that, you talk about this relationship across party lines.
Yes.
They had that kind of a relationship for Vajpayee to be able to give that kind of advice to a leader about to become Prime Minister.
Yeah. So when we look at politics today, this conversation would simply not take place between Prime Minister Modi and any member of the Gandhi family. How did it come to be? And again, it takes us back where we started. You said Prime Minister Modi is the least understood Prime Minister because in some ways he's part of an India that's changing. Has he steered that change or is he emblematic of that change?
I think both ways. It is, it's not one or the other. And now, as he views a third term, he's at a cusp. And some people say that in his third term, he could become more inclusive. And to rule a country, and he's one who would like to leave a legacy.
Yeah.
He's one who likes to do things bhavya, grand, everything on a big scale. Sometimes it doesn't work.
Also, I think he enjoys, I have no basis to say this except observation, he enjoys being unpredictable.
That, of course, to catch you and me and people like us completely, that we've now stopped predicting.
But Neerja, it's also true that the media, even those considered close to the government, have never known as little about what happens as the media does today.
See, media, as far as we are concerned, we have less access.
Yeah.
Media is under pressure. There's no doubt about that. to information. Governments always, all governments, no prime minister likes criticism. All governments want the media to do PR for them. So also this government, that they feel is their role. But the point I was making is that will Narendra Modi, as part of that legacy, reach out to the minorities in a new way to make them feel secure and that they are first-class citizens and not beleaguered? Can, as Hindu Hriday Samrat, he can reach out in his third term to that kind of a
What did you make
legacy
of his Christian outreach, for instance? It happened, again, without notice. It just happened. And there's a very interesting political outreach with Paswanda Muslims. So what's your own sense? Is Modi going to be a different Modi in his third term, or is he going to be the Modi we have known or not fully known?
I am an incorrigible optimist, and I feel, there's no country as diverse as India.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, you travel and you know this, I know this. I find it the most exciting thing, to be traveling. Every 20 kilometers, it's a different India. Language, food habits.
The best country to be a journalist in, because there's always something, there's always a story at every nukkad.
And Barkha, we are, for all its fault lines, we are proud of our democracy, that we've lasted as a democracy. So I hope very much that Narendra Modi, in the coming years, if he comes to power, will make every last Indian feel secure and wanted.
But I want to come to the opposition that's trying to fight him, is trying to maybe not stop his third term, but at least contain the margins of his victory. What's actually happening? There's been only one idea that I can think of mooted by the opposition that was not set or defined by Narendra Modi, and that is the caste census. And it has bombed at birth. It is like aborted at takeoff, because Mamata Banerjee refuses to publicly even comment on it. Uddhav Thackeray has privately made it known that this is not an issue. The India Alliance made an attempt, VP Singh style, to remandalize politics, and it totally crashed. What happened?
Number one, they had not thought it through, how they were going to put across the idea. Number two, they're not united. Number three, the Congress has never played the OBC card. The OBCs have never identified with the Congress, except in parts of the south, like Karnataka.
But the idea was mooted by Nitish Kumar. It came from Bihar. They presented themselves as leaders who were born from the sort of Lohiite movement, and now we're going to do this for the OBCs.
It will work in Bihar. It may work in Uttar Pradesh if Akhilesh Yadav, carries it forward. But with Rahul Gandhi carrying it forward without thinking through. And what is the idiom in which you put it? Caste census, how does it matter? It's a cold kind of formulation.
Yeah, esoteric.
Yeah. So I think the India Alliance, all of them well-meaning, and I hope they will get on to one-on-one contests so that they can bring down the BJP tally for checks and balances to kick in, because a strong opposition is the need of the hour. But they are not going about it in a way that inspires.
What are the mistakes they've made so far? Firstly, who's their leader?
No, it's not even the leader. It is, each one is playing the small game.
Right.
And they're playing this small game because they are fighting, each one is fighting for their survival. And that is because they really don't believe they will be able to defeat this juggernaut, this huge machinery.
Yeah, so they're basically fighting to preserve their own backyards.
That's right. So there's no one out there. Rahul Gandhi does his yatras and all that, but he too is out of sync with the, main thrust of the battle.
Which is?
Which is to take on in 2024.
So Rahul Gandhi...
Now, he's taking on this east to west yatra, Nyaya Yatra. But the regional satraps say they've not been consulted. Are they wanted there? Are they not wanted? That's elementary.
Yeah. Rahul Gandhi has framed this battle as a vichardhara ki ladai. Do you think this is an accurate way of framing this, because the India alliance itself is filled with vichardhara contradictions, ideological contradictions. There is nothing ideologically that unites the Shiv Sena with the Congress party. The Aam Aadmi party was birthed from a, I don't want to say an anti-Congress movement, but an anti-corruption movement in direct revolt against the Congress. The Delhi Congress probably hates the Aam Aadmi party more than it hates the BJP, right? So this vichardhara ki ladai is a very old way of framing a country that is in churn and change.
I think vichardhara is okay, whatever you want to call it. As you say, the common vichardhara does not unite them. What unites them is that they
don't like Modi.
They don't like
That's
Modi.
That's not a vichardhara.
Yeah, then they have to, bring him down. That is their common point. And they're all under attack from ED, Enforcement Directorate. So that also is what unites them. But actually what we are seeing is a redefinition of the republic. And they need to see what their counter narrative is going to be. What is it that they stand for?
But these moments of, I don't know about redefinition of republic, but one party domination is something India has seen before. The BJP, we forget today, in 1984 had 2 seats in parliament. It took them decades to get to what happened in 2014. The Congress or whoever emerges as the opposition has to play the long game.
Absolutely.
Do you think the Congress and the Gandhi family can survive? And when I say survive, I don't mean physically. I mean political relevance. A third term of Modi.
Why not? I just say...
Politically, I'm only asking politically.
Of course, there'll be huge challenges. But without the Gandhi family, the Congress will disintegrate.
You believe this?
Yes.
Because there has been a repeated suggestion, and I have sometimes argued this, that the opposition is playing by old rules in a new India. And if you cannot shake up the imagination of the electorate with something disruptive. So Sonia Gandhi, we now know from your book, when she abdicated, it was not disruptive, her son persuaded her. But to the outside world, it seemed like a moment of disruption. Here was a woman who had a chance to be prime minister and she had said, "Main nahi banogi." Rahul Gandhi theoretically could say, "I'm never going to be prime minister," or "I don't want to talk about being prime minister of India for the next 20 years. Whatever, I'm just theorizing here. My submission to you is, if the Gandhis remain in control of the Congress, they might be what holds the party together, but they also remain what the BJP can constantly attack them for.
Absolutely. And dynasty, they connote everything that young India doesn't like.
Yeah.
But for instance, they could have, when Mamata Banerjee and Arvind Kejriwal suggested the name of Mallikarjun Kharge to lead the campaign, they could have absolutely latched onto it. It came from the others, not from them. India has never had a Dalit prime minister. Now you can say in the north he may not have clicked. We don't know. But certainly Dalits would have been affected. And that's the best card you have today to play. So for them to say, no, it will be decided after the election, they let the moment pass. And maybe it's insecurity, if you give up power, they've seen a Narasimha Rao, they've seen a Sitaram Kesri in the past, then they may be in trouble. But to that extent, while the Congress cannot do without the Gandhi family because it may break up into small groups. On the other hand, the Gandhi family needs to be visionary enough.
To do what?
To let go of some of their power.
Right.
And
have they done that at all in any real way?
No, they are not letting go of their power in real terms.
In real terms. I don't mean the gesture of saying we won't run for party president.
That is also a step forward.
But Neerja, at a time when the battle is existential, right? It is an existential battle for the Congress party. We need to see what happens, of course, in 2024. We don't know. Can the same old responses work? There is now a suggestion that Mr. Modi may contest a second seat from the south, from Rameshwaram. There is talk that Sonia Gandhi may not even contest Raebareli, that Priyanka Gandhi Vadra may step in. There used to be a lot of talk, less so now, about Priyanka Gandhi being the better politician. What do you think of that? And then what have you picked up in your travels in talking to party leaders privately?
Priyanka Gandhi may be viewed a little better than Rahul as a politician, but not in the way one thought. I once used to think that she will win an election for the Congress. You know, she had that charisma, reminded people of a grandmother. But that is not people, young people in UP tell me, Congress kahan hai? We've never seen Congress. They're 25, 26-year-olds. And Congress is not going to come.
You know, I was once traveling in UP. Sorry, I just remember a funny story. And my hair grew out in the pandemic, but most of my life I had short hair. And I once stopped to talk to a pan wala in a little gaon in UP, not far from Amethi. And that pan wala thought, because Priyanka had short hair, he thought I was Priyanka Gandhi. And I started laughing. And he said, वो तो देखा ही नहीं, तो हमें लगा कोई लड़की आया अंग्रेजी बोलने वाला बाल छोटे. And it just struck me that there is such a disconnect. You know, they have not seen these people at close quarters. Sorry, go ahead.
Barkha, a new instrumentality will come up, I'm sure. When it will happen, 5 years, 10 years, a new energy. Now, the Congress as it exists today is a soft, flabby party that has stopped working hard or going to the people.
Yeah, it's like a middle-aged beer belly.
And on the other side are people who are 24/7 driven, hungry for power. Yeah. I give this example. You know, in 2003, 2004, before they came to power, and I would see senior leaders of the party and they would wring their hands about, what about UP would be the last question I would ask. They would say, what about UP, and wring their hands. You know, what to do about UP. Yeah. They're still saying that 20 years down the line. And here is the example I give often of Amit Shah. You can disagree with his politics. But this man, given charge of Uttar Pradesh in 2013, July, in 11 months' time, from 10 Lok Sabha seats to 71.
Yeah. Roughly the same age as Rahul Gandhi, by the way. In his 50s, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
It is a thing of a will to power. And
But some Congress supporters might argue about the Bharat Jodo Yatra, that Rahul Gandhi showed the kind of energy that those who supported the party had urged him to show. Why was he not able to convert that into a bigger moment? He was able to mend his image, but not really do much from the yatra for his party. What happened?
Because I think he has not clicked at the popular level as a counter to Modi, as an alternative prime minister. His moment is not today. His moment may come in the future when the mood turns.
But you can't run politics with apna time aayega philosophy.
Apna time aayega by default, and certainly or saying that, or doing what you're saying, doing the Sonia Gandhi, that I'm not going to be prime minister. Will that work? And if so, who comes in? So in a sense, you know, new people will come up, hopefully will have to rise. And situations will have to throw up those people.
So let me ask you in the end, you know, reading your book on 6 Indian prime ministers, you also find that people don't remain on the same path. So Vajpayee, for example, starts as a pacifist who had a kavita on Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and then becomes someone who takes Pokhran forward, right? Manmohan Singh, mild-mannered, never really asserts himself vis-a-vis Sonia Gandhi, except when it comes to the nuclear deal, says, I'll resign, I'll risk my government. Explain that psychology, that people change. Being in government changes you. You change the country. But the country also changes you.
Absolutely, Barkha. You put it very well, that it's not a static thing. It's a growing evolutionary process, and no prime minister inherits a clean slate.
Yeah.
It is a growing situation that they have to deal with, and I suppose at the end of the day, even they fight for survival, and that is what is the overwhelming drive in most of them. They also want the best for the country.
We've spoken a lot about Hindu resurgence, but we haven't spoken about options, political options for Indian Muslims. What are they today?
You know, there's a lot of talk and discussion and churning in the Muslim community. and they are, thinking deeply and very pained and insecure. And I was thinking, Barkha, if you and I were non-Hindus, what would we be feeling like today? I would say not good, not able to look at the future with hope.
But there is also, and it needs to be said, a failure of politics here, in that your leadership or your representation cannot come from religious leaders alone, right? Yes, there is talk of the BJP being a Hindu nationalist party today, but when Vajpayee and Advani rose, they didn't rise only as Hindu leaders. There were other dimensions to them. So I just wonder about the absence of political leadership among the Muslim community. Why has that happened? If you, other than the Indian Union Muslim League and Asaduddin Owaisi's party?
I think they may not know the way to go at the moment, this way, that way. They may be watching, but the initiative could come from the majority community, having got the Ram temple, having, feeling good about their Hindu identity. Steps could be taken for reconciliation, moves towards reconciliation with the other side.
And you hope that will happen. Let me end by asking you, what's the one thing in Prime Minister Modi's 10 years that has surprised you, that went against your understanding of politics? A decision, a moment, a statement?
He has, nobody would have thought that the BJP would be where it is today. When, when Advani chose him to be chief minister, he was just an ordinary, worker, and people were surprised that he was going to replace Keshubhai Patel.
And he was a friendly BJP leader at the Delhi office,
very
who would often be there in his kurta pajama and rubber chappals, and you could go in and chat with him at any point.
And of course he came through the ranks, from Chaiwala and humble beginnings to where he was, and never fought an election, and that he would take the BJP to such heights in such a short time.
So you're saying the very fact of Modi.
A paradigm shift in Indian politics, like it or don't like it.
So the very fact of Modi today defies expectation in your experience.
The very fact of Modi today
defies expectation.
Yes, that...
or had, like 10 years ago, you wouldn't have forecast this political...
And relentless. You got over something and there's a new something coming. Another new... Now in the South, he's reaching out. South, they're nowhere in the picture, but he's reaching out.
And he started where the BJP has no presence politically.
That's right, and not giving up.
And I think that's what you mentioned, that, Mr. Modi is the least understood because he represents a country that's still changing. And what shape and form that change will take, or maybe it'll be a series of changes, we don't know. It has been fascinating talking to you, Neerja. I have to, before I let you go, ask a personal question. You started your journalism with Rajmohan Gandhi, with Himmat. These were small publications that came up during the time of the emergency. You crowdsourced printing press for 75,000 rupees.
Absolutely. I remember during the emergency, when the presses stopped looking at us because we were resisting the censorship. And so we moved from one to the next till all stopped. And then we put out an appeal. And Barkha, those money orders of 1 rupee that would flood in is not more than 10, 20 rupees at a go. It wasn't large donation. And 70,000 that graph went up to when we bought our own press. And soon after that, of course, Indira Gandhi announced election.
But it's also important, lovely as the story is, to remember that many of these moments have happened before in the life of a country. It feels to us that, oh my God, this is the first time. But if you've lived long enough, all of these debates around institutions, media, politics, personality-centric versus organization, you have seen these moments before.
Yes, you have seen these moments, and that's why, at least for the media, I feel the strengthening of our institutions, our democratic institution, is the biggest challenge, and that's the only thing that will undergird our democracy. And we have to relook at our democracy also.
Well, the challenge is that most people understand democracy in very basic terms. Can we vote? Can we bring in the people we choose? Can we vote out the people we don't choose? Everything that happens between elections, people don't care as much about.
Yeah.
And so it's very tough to get the imagination running on those issues, and we all have to introspect. Why do people not care that much about what happens to media, for instance? It's something I think a lot about, but that for another time. Thank you, Neerja Chowdhury. A pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.